Welcome to Launch Today, the podcast focused on what it takes to get your startup to $1 million or more in revenue. From marketing tactics to incredible guest interviews, we focus on behind-the-scenes content from masters in their field. If you want to grow your revenue for your startup or your business, you don't want to miss today, because today's guest is revolutionizing the electrician industry with AI-powered tools while addressing critical workforce shortages. Joshua Ogundu is the CEO of Tradeway Tech, building productivity and workforce management solutions for electricians with backing from Bloomberg Tech and Techstars Detroit. That's not a bad accolade at all. With over a decade of product management experience from across companies like TikTok and Burner, Joshua brings a unique perspective on bridging the gap between tech innovation and traditional skilled trade. Josh, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to talking to you about what we're doing and all that good stuff.
Awesome. So I always like to start by asking, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, what originally honestly got me into tech, even before we get into Tradeway, is that I've always wanted to build things that I feel like can impact people at scale. In the three areas where I believe that happens at is policy, entertainment, and technology. So I ended up really going forward on the software side back in college. So that's the thinking that got me into it. But really what brought me to Tradeway is that, one, I actually spent time in the trade. So I worked under my aunt and uncle as an electrical helper / laborer when I was in late high school. So I would help them out from time to time, while my part-time job during that time for real was working at Burger King. And the reason I mention that is because my time at Burger King and also helping them out, I felt like more and more folks who may work different service jobs could come into the trades and make a very healthy living and things of that nature. I like to mention it for that reason. But what brought me to it now was seeing that since 2008, we've had a skilled labor shortage due to the Great Recession. And, due to the policies that the previous administration put forth and the current administration's focus, the skilled trades are becoming more and more of a thing that people tend to want to talk about and to see more technology coming into and more people coming into. So that's what brought me into to what I'm doing today.
All right. Let me ask, because the AI revolution is coming for knowledge management jobs, to be sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's nearly as threatening, in at least the midterm, for trade jobs, because it'll be a long time till we have a robot that can come into a job site, understand what's wrong with the wiring, and fix it.
Correct.
But you're bringing AI into this. Tell me how AI assists these electricians without taking away their jobs.
Yeah, there's two schools of thought when it comes down to what AI can and cannot do, or where the value actually will be. Some people believe it's in automation. Some people believe it's in augmentation. When I see the blue collar workforce, specifically those working in the skilled trades in residential, commercial, construction, or utilities, the augmentation piece is what really comes to mind, is like, how do you give people the access to the things that they need to do their jobs more safely and efficiently versus trying to take them out of it. And I'm glad that you highlighted robots, because robots typically focus on unskilled labor. So brick masons, drywall, roofers, for example. And even robotics in that area is it hasn't permeated residential or construction or utilities in any material way. So we're probably far off from that as well. But yeah, for us, we want to give people access to the information that they need in order to just work safely and effectively, versus trying to use AI to automate things or replace people that honestly cannot be replaced.
I got that. So Sam Altman, Satya Nadella, everybody who's at the forefront of what AI
Yeah.
is talking about what AI is going to be. You've developed an AI co-pilot called Earl,
Yes.
specifically for electricians.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wager that interactions with Earl look a little different than interactions with Gemini.
Correct.
What have you learned that's surprising about how a tradie interacts with technology versus how in their ivory tower, Silicon Valley, might think people do?
Yeah. So the thing that I think people tend to assume when it comes down to those in the trade is that they're like, oh, how would I use AI to do this? Or how would I use this kind of functionality? Like, we're a web app. Anyone in the skilled trades has a high school diploma. Folks know what they're doing. So the interaction and adoption is actually even much more needed and much more talked about in the trade than people would assume. So like the interaction for a tradesman or woman on Earl we've seen less people always going to the chat box functionality, which is asking questions, and people are more uploading images to identify tools quite a bit. For example, if you're new in the world of residential construction, or you are on site and trying to figure out, do I have the right tools for the job? You can upload a photo to Earl and it'll let you know if this tool is the right one for the job just by uploading it, and it'll let you know what's happening there. So the way we've seen interaction is very much visual focused more than it is tech focused, like text focused with like white collar workers more often than not. But for us, we are looking to really, how do we increasingly bridge that relationship between text and image, which is most important for folks working in the trade. So that's why a key difference is that we look to be much more visual plus text focused, while you see in white collar, it's really more text focused as it relates to the output.
Gotcha. Multi-modality matters more
Correct.
for you than for most knowledge workers. Makes sense. When I repaired my dishwasher a couple months ago, the conversation was a whole bunch of me posting a photo of the insides of my machine and just saying to ChatGPT, "What's this?" Makes sense.
How did it work out for you?
Relatively well. So I bought a dishwasher that I knew was broken for $40, and I just had to figure out why it was leaking. And I did. I didn't do squat. AI told me what to do, and I was the meat puppet, right? And in the end, couldn't find the actual replacement part. Basically, there was a hose that had cracked, but was able to find a part that would fit with enough vigorous use of a band clamp
There we go.
around the outlet, and it doesn't leak anymore. So, hey, I got a dishwasher for $40. That's pretty hard to beat.
That's a win. That's augmentation at work.
That's augmentation at work, definitely. So there's a huge shortage of skilled trades. And as you mentioned, neither of the current nor the previous administration are doing a lot to fix that. So then there's people like you coming in to try and bridge this gap. I would note tons of people I'd argue more like you're in my field, in the Silicon Valley startup tech worker field, got laid off.
Correct.
How are you trying to help bring people from the world of clicky into get your hands dirty, get working a wrench, and actually work in the real world?
Not at all, honestly.
Okay.
I think the people in white collar industry, specifically around tech, a lot of folks talk more about, they want to buy a small skilled trades business and then try to run it like that. I don't hear many folks talking about actually wanting to be the talent themselves. And so I don't hear much about folks that want to be the talent themselves. I hear much more people talking about, hey, I'm thinking of, if I got laid off or what have you, I want to buy a skilled trades business and run it more efficiently by putting technology within it from a back office perspective, is what I've seen most happen. And I haven't seen many people say they really want to switch functions.
Really? Because I do carpentry as a hobby.
There you go.
And it's so much, it's not easy. I'm not claiming.
No, it's
The
not.
problems are so different than what I do all day. I'm not worried about staffing and cash flow. And
Yes.
instead it's, hey, you've got this much wood that needs to do this thing. And you inevitably screwed up one or two of your boards or your joints or something. And now you've got to salvage the project. That's exactly. It's still work, but it's very different kind of work. And it's more, I don't know, I'm not trying to romanticize it as relaxing, but I can see a world where a good cabinet maker makes as much as I do.
Yeah.
And gets to work with their hand all day, which in some ways is more appealing. So I'm surprised that nobody in the Valley goes, man, I have to get out of being a project manager for a note-taking app is such a BS job. Build something real, man.
No, I agree. But I've seen much more, especially in the startup VC back world, people take the more ownership lens on things from the forefront. I think that's why we're seeing more folks talk about, okay, I want to lead. If I come into the trade, I'm looking to own the business and run the business versus be the skilled tradesman myself. And you would think we'd see more people looking to come and do that, given the unfortunate correction that the industry is going through and continues to go through, as you and I have both seen over the years.
Yeah. One of my buddies, Spencer Scott, over on Twitter, did the SaaS play, has a couple of SaaS businesses, and then YOLO'd into running a trash company. called Lone Star Trash, and I think he's doing 700K a year with some
Oh,
trash trucks and just in a tiny city. I think it's Lubbock, Texas, and he's
oh,
just slaughtering the competition because his team is actually good at their job, as opposed to the
exactly.
competition who's not. And they don't get more blue collar than trash pickup. And he
Right.
actually
That's blue collar.
that's blue collar. And he messaged me yesterday. One of his trash trucks got into a wreck. And there's the problem different, right? I can't revert my deployment and then remove the bugs. No, I'm missing one truck and have to somehow still do all the pickups. Totally different
Exactly.
problems. But I think he started this thing 9 months ago. So from nine
Oh,
months to 700K ARR with a trash pickup business, I'm not saying I want to get into trash pickup, but there are days I think about it.
right.
So let me ask you, you've got a startup that interfaces between blue collar and manual labor, but
Yeah.
you've got funding from Bloomberg and Techstars,
Correct.
they're quite the top tier of VCs. How do you take something as, I'll say, non-traditional
Yeah.
as let me help electricians get better at their work and convince people this is a VC scale business?
Yeah. So the way that I looked at it when I was talking to both folks is that the venture scale opportunity for us is that we see ourselves building co-pilots across electrical trade specializations and then also building those vertically across the skilled trades in general. So we see a world where we're building the productivity platform across the skilled trades. We're just happening to start in electrical. We also see an opportunity for general contractors to leverage us as a workforce management solution. So we see ourselves going in that direction as well. So looking to be the productivity platform and workforce management solution across residential, commercial, skilled trades work is the venture scale opportunity that we see. For example, those in the business heard of like Service Titan. They've been around for 17 years. Procore is more in commercial construction. They've been around for 20 plus. So it's like there are companies that, and Service Titan just went public earlier this year. So there is companies that, excuse me, that are doing this work and have proven that you can get venture scale outcomes out of it. However, there has not been a lot of shots on goal with those looking to take venture scale shots when it comes down to software within this industry. So I will say that while we've seen like unicorn level valuations as well as public market multi-billion-dollar market caps, there actually hasn't been a whole bunch of folks doing this work over the last 15 some odd years that venture capital has really ballooned. So I think there's a lot of ripe opportunity in it. So that's the way that we talked about it to folks at Bloomberg as well as Techstars. And I want to give a shout out to Roy Bahat over at Bloomberg, as well as Monica Wheat, who was my managing director over at Techstars Detroit.
Gotcha. I like the approach. That's a good way to make a compelling case. This is a venture scale.
Yeah,
So you have been a founder, you've been a super angel investor,
correct.
and like different sides of the same problem. One of these is I want your money. The other is why should I give you my money?
Yes,
And what have you seen? Like you've obviously had folks persuade you they're interesting enough to part with your money.
correct.
When you were on that side, the other side of the table, the money giving side of the table, what were you looking for from a startup?
The first one is that are they building in a category that I've already thought about? Like often people believe that you can bring a good idea to an investor and they'll just like, hey, this is a good idea. You've shown traction. I'll give you money because you're proving out a business. It's less about convincing someone of that and more so showing them that you're building in an opportunity that they've already thought about. So that's the first thing. Like people have their like filters on what they want to invest in before you even talk to them. So that's the first thing. But the second thing that was most important for me is having some type of firsthand experience in the area in which you're looking to build in. Not only like most people look at it from like how they build the product, I less look at it from that perspective. And I more so look at it from like the relationships that may be needed in order to get this thing off the ground. And what better way to get relationships than working in it or exposing yourself to it. And I don't believe that it needs to be a professional experience. It doesn't need to be something that has went on your resume. It can be something that you did side of your 9 to 5 job, whatever that job is. So for me, it was like, are they building in a category that I've already thought about? Because if it's not in that, I'm not really changing my thesis anytime soon. And then secondly, how have you exposed yourself to the problem that you're looking to reduce and or solve?
Cool. That's a great lens. And particularly the idea of you don't have to have formal experience with it, I like.
Yep.
You are obviously an underrepresented founder. Do you have any advice for how other underrepresented founders can leverage some of that? This is in my background, even if it's not an MBA from Wharton's, that makes me the right person to invest in for this particular idea.
Yeah. So I would say for underrepresented founders, if you're it depends on what you're trying to prove to the person. It's all this stuff is about credibility. So if you're an underrepresented founder who does not have the quote unquote professional experience that folks are looking for in like when it comes down to exposure to opportunity, I might find time outside of your actual job to build something like something tangible, like whether it's relationships, products, because you can turn sentences into software nowadays. So like showing that you have spent time learning and getting some real like types of wins under your belt, I think is most advantageous for folks. And then the question is different when if you're asking like how to better position yourself as someone that could be viable for venture capital. That's the first part. And then the second part is how do you position yourself as someone that would be a good steward of that capital, giving your like exposure to the domain and relationships that you have.
Cool. I think being a good steward of capital is something that founders don't hear or think a lot about. I just want the money and then
Right.
we're going to go. So you built multiple companies, including Like Me and Campfire before Tradeway.
Correct.
What's a founder skill that you had to develop the hard way that you wish someone told you back in the Campfire or Like Me days? You need to know this, Josh. You'll do better if you do.
I'd say for Like Me, that was bootstrap. Campfire was venture backed as well. So I would say the main thing that I learned across those the hard way is how quickly it can change. Is probably the main one I would say to folks because we're talking about venture back stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
we were building in social audio with Campfire. This is when Clubhouse, Amazon had AMP, Facebook had their audio product. So there were bigger players and smaller players like ourselves. And when themes change, when like what people care to invest in change a lot, it can really make it challenging for you to raise additional capital, which ultimately was what happened with us as well. So one thing I learned is don't build within themes that you feel are not going to be consistent, not ones that are like just a flash in the pan. And it looked like social audio, honestly, was a flash in the pan for most anyone that looked to build into that category. So you want to make sure you're building around a trend. And if it's a trend, make sure it's not a trend that's just nascent and will be gone tomorrow. It can be a nascent trend that will be here tomorrow. So I think that's one thing that I definitely learned because it's super easy to build for the hot spaces. But when those spaces turn cold, it can get very cold for you as well.
Yes, as Twitter Spaces did. I totally get it. I think in that idea, then, you're in the AI space now.
Yeah.
Is that one that you think might also grow cold the same way Twitter Spaces did?
Yeah, honestly, I think that I think there's certain parts of AI that I'm more bullish on. If you're trying to think of new consumer use cases, that could be interesting. If you're really optimizing like a workflow that would save people time and money, maybe. But I do think that we're over investing in AI targeted at white collar workers. I think we're having an over investment in enterprise AI specifically. And I just don't see a world where the money put in is actually going to give the returns that folks expect. And I think realistically, people want AI to be this like platform shift akin to mobile and the internet and cloud and all that. And honestly, it's really not a platform shift because if it was a platform shift, we'd be using it on a different platform. I don't even know why people have overlooked that. If it was a platform shift, we wouldn't be using it on the same platforms we used on mobile and things of that nature. So I think AI, while hot, the jury's out on what the durability of AI only revenue actually is going to be.
I get you. I saw Y Combinator put out last week.
Yeah.
Their request for startups was for full stack AI startup, which is a confusing as hell term. because what they meant was somebody who doesn't just make software, but also delivers the fulfillment for a client on the software. And of course, you're in that area, right? You're not just, you're saying, hey, here's a piece of software, good luck, have fun. But rather, you're going into this, but this is specific. It's for electricians. They have their
Yep.
particular. Do you think that's where we're going with AI? Is these very focused, like individualized tools where no one is going to use, no one who's in, I don't know, logistics, right, is ever going to use your AI because it's
Correct.
not going to be built for them, even though it's in
Correct.
theory like LLMs are LLMs. Do you think we're
Yep.
going to go into these very niche, specialized use cases, and that's how AI adoption is going to thrive?
I'm big on the verticalization of AI. Like I'm big on that. Like we're building in it. Other folks are now talking about it. I think verticalization is where you're going to see like most people win. Just like how media is becoming niche. I think software is also becoming niche. Like these greater platforms were great as software was starting to proliferate. But now that it's saturated, people really want things that are very tuned to what they're looking to do. And then the second part of that, when it comes down to tuning to what you are specifically looking to do, the only real moat in AI is data. So if you're unable to build a proprietary, unique data set across on a specific for your product, then you're going to end up honestly not being as defensible, at least on the technical side over time. So I'm big on the verticalization of things. And I think that verticalization is going to help people get proprietary data sets and nuances that you can't find from out of the box LLMs that I think will be most beneficial and withstanding coming towards the cycles that be in tech. So I definitely see verticalization being a thing, and I definitely see people being able to get proprietary data from that, which will help them build their businesses.
I got that. So you're from the Midwest, right? You went to
Michigan,
Michigan State, to USC. You don't have the Valley founder like background in you. You're
correct.
not from there. How has that changed how you approach entrepreneurship compared to somebody who grew up in San Francisco around all the insanity that's there and just thinks that's how business should be?
I believe it makes you more of an independent thinker. I do think that you like people like myself, like I'm from Michigan, so I'm from Southeast Michigan. So like I think when you're not someone who's born in it or always around it or candidly drinks the Kool-Aid that people want you to drink, if you're not one of those people, then it helps you actually find opportunities that are under discussed and underserved when it comes down to building, investing, media, whatever it is. I think it just gives you clearer eyes to look through the world through. I believe that like in SF, while it was advantageous to have groupthink when everybody was first coming up and doing their things. Now, more and more, if you don't have an individual point of view that you can actually build on, you're going to be left behind because as venture capital gets disrupted, as well as the world of startups has changed and big tech is changing, these kinds of consensus bets end up making people no money. While consensus bets previously were helpful because there is this venture capital ecosystem like, what people will go on. You raise a seed round, then you get certain metrics, you're at an A, hit certain metrics, you're at a B. That handoff has been fundamentally broken. So since that handoff is no longer a thing, it's going to be much harder for folks to make money on consensus bets like it was before, because it really was a assembly line for venture for the last 15 years that we're not going to see anymore. So I think for me, being outside of it, I believe that has been helpful for me. I think if you're born in SF, that gives you a certain color. If you go to Stanford or Cal, I think that gives you a certain color. Outside of that, I think wherever you're at, you can see pretty clear eyed. I think up there, you're able to get, I think up there is easy to get caught in the hype and not really see things for what they are, like how to separate noise from signal. Is something that I think is increasingly difficult for those who look at technology through the lens of SF.
I get that. The bubble is very real,
Yes,
and you get some crazy ideas for things like the Sedgeway. They never would have worked
I
in
remember that.
any because it's such a crazy, it's an insane thing. And then of course, when you go outside the valley, no one wants one because it's such a valley thing.
It's
What
such
if
a
I look like a complete prat while taking a a combination between a skateboard and a Roman chariot and use that as my mobility device. Like, how about not? Maybe not. All right, let me go. I've lost my notes. There we go. So you are, I think, embodying the new founder lifestyle in a way that people haven't mentally made the switch for. You are a board member at One Degree, a contributing writer to Afrotech, advisor to other startups, and you're a CEO.
Yep.
It used to be they would say you need to be 100% all in, only doing your startup, or else there's no funding for you. How have you, as a founder and someone who's balancing all these roles, how do you have a framework to manage all of this? How do you have a framework to convince your investors that you're putting enough attention where it matters so that their investment will return?
Yeah, so I'd say that they all have a same through line. I think that's the easiest way to manage multiple priorities is that they all pipe into each other. Like the work we do at Tradeway, at the tech company, the work I do at Afrotech, I'm writing about tech. One Degree is a nonprofit based in the Bay, actually, that's looking to reimagine the social safety net, leveraging technology and philanthropy. So that's also in the world of technology. So it all pipes into each other. So it actually makes it much easier than people would assume because it's all like in the same industry doing the same thing. They're not really that, they're different focuses, but still have the same through line through all of them. And then when it comes down to investors, the thing I actually want to tell people about investors is that you're not really convincing them of anything. It's not like a parent and son relationship or a parent and daughter relationship. It's more like, hey, you keep them in the know, you let them know what you're doing. But investors specifically, I would say pre-Series A, are not as like in your business all the time as people may assume, because that gets us back to that whole thing about being a good steward of capital. If they believe that you're a good steward of capital when they give you the capital, there's no reason to try to convince them that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, which I believe honestly probably makes it harder for people to raise than they may assume, because someone has to believe that you're going to be a good steward of capital now and in the future, which could be different depending on who you're talking to. So yeah, on the investor side, being a good steward of capital is what they assumed you were when they invested in your company. And then when it comes down to like time management, it's really just they all share a similar through line and they all pipe into each other. So it doesn't feel like it's any different. I also am a person who believes in work-life integration. I'm not a work-life balance kind of person. So that also colors the way I look at it quite a bit.
Gotcha. I read a lot about successful founders of big companies.
Yeah.
Saying that if you think work-life balance is what you can do while you're a founder, you're wrong, right? You don't get
Correct.
that. Once the company has scaled, maybe you get work-life balance. But until then, you grind or you give up.
Exactly. That's 100% true.
I do think it is. But then it's also, you need to know when this isn't going to work. Give up, find something else, because you can grind yourself entirely away if you let yourself do. So you can probably tell from my background, I like a good book. And
Yes.
always like to ask other founders, book, audiobook, podcast, whatever. Everybody has ways they put information in their head. What do you recommend a founder do and consume to be better as a founder or a human in the next, I don't know, we'll say 90 days? Like, what are your recommendations?
Yeah, I would say on the founder side, a book that I recommend is The Everything Store from Jeff Bezos and Amazon that came out around like 10 years ago. So I would say I definitely recommend that book, because something that really stuck out to me when I read it all those years ago was that people tend to focus on direct competition while they really need to focus on indirect competition. For example, Bezos and Barnes were not his direct, those are direct competitors, but he didn't see them as his main competitor. What Bezos saw as the main competitor to Amazon back when they were selling books was, what are the other ways that people are spending their leisure time? Because yeah, you can use a book, but you also could play a video game. You could also listen to music. There's so many things that one can do with their leisure time. And if you look at Amazon today, they've actually started to really vertically integrate into all the ways in which one can spend their leisure time. So that's one thing that I really like. Another book that I actually would recommend as a human comes from Sahil Bloom. The five types of wealth. I just got done at Five Types of Wealth. He just released it this year. It's pretty popular. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for numerous weeks now. And the reason I like that book is because he is also a founder building this business. He's an author, he's a writer, things of that nature, and gives people a way to look at life and how you can make the one that you want as beneficial as possible. On the founder side, I think Bezos really does it well. And on the human side, I would say the Five Types of Wealth is great because there's like mental wealth, social wealth, obviously financial wealth, and all that kind of stuff. So I would say those are the ones that I would recommend to folks to read and check out if you're looking to be a better founder or a better holistic human.
Awesome. What a great pairing here. The Five Types of Wealth I have read, but I haven't read Jeff Bezos' book. Sounds like maybe I should.
How'd you like the Five Types of Wealth?
So I think it is, in America, we over-optimize for one type of wealth. And it's not going to be a secret which one, capital wealth. And when you change your life situation substantially, give kids, right, make a big move, get unemployed, something big happens in your life, is when we tend to stop and say, what about the other four? And it is easy, particularly in the U.S., I think of everywhere in the world, it is easy to just get caught up instantly again in, but what about material wealth? And when you see people talk about European GDP and U.S. GDP and how, look at how much better life is in the U.S. than in Europe, I'm like, yes and no. What type of wealth do you wish to optimize for? And over in Europe, they've chosen a different type of wealth to optimize for that is not purely capital. But when you get all of the number crunching, extremely type A personality Twitter commenters being like, hey, get good, Europe. U.S. has twice the GDP per capita that you do. Okay, yeah, it's true. But I've been to Portugal, and I don't think I want to live there full time because the bureaucracy is completely insane. But
Right.
the life tempo is completely different. Are they earning less money? Yes, completely. Are they having a life that is different and also perfectly acceptable? Yes, this is true. And that's something that a lot of people omit. And then all of the, it's still true maybe for a while yet, all the folks who are capital oriented. You come to America to get rich, right? That's where you can make your capital dreams come true.
Exactly.
I think it's getting harder than it used to be for that to be true as
Agree, 100%.
administrations bring out increasingly immigrant negative policies. But I think that was for 100 years. You go to America because that's where you can make a capital dream.
Yeah, and I do agree that the capital dream as it relates to America, whether you're an immigrant or domestically born, I think that sell is getting tougher to believe.
Yes. I mean, there's no coincidence to me that I have hit my most successful self-run businesses only after I left the United States. I live in Canada now. And I deliberately chose because I was going to have children. And I went, let me move somewhere where there's healthcare. And so my son was born in Poland. And then we moved from Poland to Canada. Like, my daughters were born here. So I have twins.
Boom. I'm also a twin.
Hey, there you go. It is twins are somehow 5 people's worth of trouble when they are young.
Yes, they are.
And watching my twin girls look at each other, and in a quarter of a second, they've had a whole conversation, decided on something, and now the world had better watch out, is a bit terrifying.
Twin dad life.
It's a thing, man. It's a thing. Okay, so I really appreciate your time today, Josh. Let me ask you, people want to find out more about you. They want to find out more about what you are building with Tradeway Tech. Where do they go look you up?
First, go to tradesareTheway.com. That will take you directly to Earl, where he can answer your questions about all things electrical. He can also identify tools for you. And if you are curious about the things you don't know or need to know, he can also let you know that because he gives you all the foundational knowledge that you need as well. So outside of that, outside of Tradeway, outside of Earl, you can find me on Twitter at Joshua Ogundu. You can also find me on LinkedIn as Joshua Ogundu, or do we call it X now? I still call it Twitter. I don't know. I don't know what people call it nowadays.
I try to remember to not dead name X, but I get it wrong half the time.
Follow me on X at Joshua Ogundu, but I'm on LinkedIn at Joshua Ogundu as well.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you are watching this episode, if you have not, be sure to subscribe. Every week, we're putting out great interviews with folks just like Joshua. We'd be happy to have you watching as we bring more coming. Thanks so much, Joshua.
Welcome.